Good afternoon. Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Candace Prince with Green Hope Project. I'm super excited to have Sarah Elena Dillabough here with us. I know that she has got a broad history of experience with a lot of environmental and eco-friendly products, and so I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Elena.
Hello. So yes, my name is Sarah Elena, and I'm from El Paso. And today I'll be talking about shifting towards more eco-conscious decision making. So shifting our perspective, cultivating awareness, and choosing a better path forward. So that's my little family. So I was born and raised in El Paso. My background is environmental studies. Right now, I work in the capacity as a sustainability and outreach specialist for the local engineering firm. And I'm a volunteer with numerous organizations, namely Frontera Land Alliance as their advisory board. I'm on the board of the Open Space Advisory Board for the city of El Paso. And I volunteer with a couple other organizations that have to deal with food waste and food rescue. And I will be starting law school in the fall. So my goal is to do environmental or sustainable development type law. So today I'm going to cover how we impact the environment, cultivating a systems thinking, the difference between being a citizen and a consumer, and then eco swaps and the 5 R's. So a very, I guess you can say, popular and well-used assessment of how we impact the environment can be boiled down to these four things: behavior, affluence, population, and technology. And actually, it used to just be affluence, population, and technology, but one of my professors, Dr. Kissel, in college, he added that behavior component. And so when you think about it, these 4 things really do play off of how we impact. So obviously our behavior, that's a no-brainer. The way we behave and the way we use the environment is going to impact it for the better, for the worse. And affluence as well. And as I'm sitting here giving this presentation, you know, sometimes you feel like, I don't know if I'm qualified to give this presentation because I live in a house and I drive a car and I get packages delivered to my doorstep. And there are people who are less affluent, who don't have these luxuries. And in that same line, their impact is much less on the environment. Population as well, and technology. So, and so humans, we use land for a lot of different reasons: agriculture, residential, industrial, mining, recreation. And the way we use the land affects the air, the water, the watershed, the generation of waste, habitat for wildlife, climate, and human health. And so I like my job right now because I work for a planning firm. It's an engineering and planning firm. So looking at ways that we can use the land in a more sustainable way will definitely help to move us to a more eco-friendly type of living. Pollution is another huge impact we have that also goes into behavior, affluence, population, and technology, right? Pollution, which is the introduction of harmful materials into the environment, such as vehicle exhaust, even greenhouse gases. That's a type of pollution. And they can get into the water, the air, soil, us, animals, and actually can impact whole ecosystems like we saw with DDT, for example. And then, of course, overconsumption. So we consume excessively the resources that are available to us. And that's a problem as we have, for example, more population growth or more affluence or thinking of the behaviors now, the influencer type behavior and wanting to always be ahead of the trend. And so you have fast fashion that feeds into the overconsumption problems we have. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the various ways that we do impact the environment. And so I think one of the most important parts about starting to shift your thinking to more eco-friendly and more eco-conscious thinking is cultivating a systems thinking. So systems thinking is the process of understanding how everything influences one another within a whole. So for example, in nature, it can include the way ecosystems have different elements like air and movement and plants and how they all work together. And so us humans, we are part of a system, and we don't exist outside of this system that supports us. And so we have to learn how we can support that system that supports us and not degrade it. And another key component about more eco-conscious decision making is not. So I think sometimes when we think about being more eco-conscious, we think about what can I buy that will make me more eco-conscious. So I'll buy a reusable water bottle, or I'll buy soap bars instead of plastic containers. But I wanted to read this quote from Annie Leonard. She has written a book, and she gave an interview to The Guardian. And so she says, we've allowed our citizen self to be dwarfed by a relatively new reflex action, which is consume, consume, consume. Our consumer self is so overdeveloped that we spend most of our time there. You see it walking around. We usually interact with others from our consumer self and are most spoken to as our consumer self. The problem is that we are so comfortable there that when we're faced with really big problems, i.e. climate change, we think about what to do as individuals and consumers. So I should buy this instead of this. But if you're going to vote with your dollar, that's fine. But you need to remember that, for example, Exxon has a lot more dollars than you. We need to vote with our votes, re-engage with political process, and change the balance of power so that those who are looking out for the well-being of the planet dominate instead of those who are just looking out for the bottom line. And I really like this quote and this idea of the consumer versus the citizen, because as you look at what you call wicked environmental problems, which are those that are complex and difficult to address as an individual, such as climate change, such as plastic pollution, such as dependence on fossil fuels, we see through research that the marketing and the messaging from those large companies and corporations that have benefited it's shifting the responsibility to the individual, right? So it's the individualization of responsibility, and it's the deflection of blame from large industries to the quote unquote consumer. And so I think sometimes it's really easy to get bogged down in feeling like, that you as an individual, you're the reason for this, and you need to change everything you're doing, and you need to buy all the newest, more eco-friendly products. And it's a lot of pressure in it, and you feel a lot of guilt. At least I do sometimes. But we have to remember that there's forces that are more powerful that we need to engage with on a political level, and as citizens to really change the system that's working to perpetuate these environmentally destructive patterns that we've cultivated as a human society. And so I think I just spoke about this morning. These are some photos I snapped from this morning. But the conservation of Napland in the northeast, and Lost Dog in the northwest area of El Paso, I think are really great examples of what happens when we step into our citizen self and really advocate for something that we want to see happen. Judy Ackerman, she said today, and I thought it tied really well into this idea of the citizen versus the consumer. It wasn't a big, somebody that came and said, I have a lot of money that I can offer for this land, or it wasn't a person with large political interest that came in and said, I want this to happen. No, it was the neighbors that they noticed development happening in this area and they didn't want it to continue. Same with Lost Dog. It was an effort that the whole community undertook to get preserved. And so yeah, that I think from this whole presentation, of course, I'm going to cover the fun eco swaps and the different methods that we can take as individuals to lessen the burden that we pose on the environment, because that is important. You can't just deflect blame all around. The companies can't deflect blame on us, and we can't deflect all the blame on them. Like I said, we're a system, so each player in the system has a role to reduce environmental impact. But I think that stepping into your citizen self is one of the most important ways that we can cultivate more eco-conscious decisions and habits in our life. So the 5 R's and eco swaps. So the idea is that we move towards a zero waste type philosophy of production. This encourages the redesign of products to make them easily reusable, and also diminishes excessive packaging that is made from materials that cannot be, that can't biodegrade, that cannot be broken down into their elements, versus plastic, for example, that just never really breaks down into its component parts. It just becomes microplastics. So the 5 R's, we have refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. And so if you notice, recycle is pretty low on the list, right? Recycling was actually introduced as a way to almost that deflection of blame to the consumer through the plastics industry, when they realized that plastics were going to be a huge problem for the environment. And you can see this documented throughout history, the, campaigns, marketing campaigns to try and turn the pollution problem onto the users and not the producers, right? Recycling is still important. I'm not saying it's not, but you notice that it's almost the last R because it's not the most important, right? So refusing, that's one of the most important ones. That's the first one, right? So like, let's say you go to a restaurant and they offer you a straw. You can refuse the plastic straw. If you're going to order takeout and you know that when you get home, you're going to have utensils here at home, you can refuse the utensils. And so it's just the process of, or for example, going to a conference and they're offering a bunch of freebies, you can refuse those if you don't want them. And when you get a lot of people to start refusing, then you create a culture of understanding that, okay, people are not wanting these plastic straws anymore. Let's see what else there is. Or, okay, at a conference, maybe people don't want this random magnet that I'm going to give them. Maybe let's look for a different product that's more sustainable and more useful to their life. And so when you get enough people to refuse, you can start to change the habits of the people offering, or the companies offering those products to you. Also, refusing can just be refusing to buy new stuff when you don't need it, for example, which ties into reducing. And so reducing, there's a lot that we can reduce, right? The whole idea is is to always think, how can I reduce my impact on the environment? That could mean reducing the amount of clothes you buy, reducing the amount of meat and dairy that you consume, reducing the amount of processed foods that you purchase, reducing the amount of prepackaged items that you purchase. That could be reducing your energy consumption, reducing, the amount of trash that you produce. So I think it's really helpful to always think about, how can I reduce my impact? And what you can do is you can look at what your habits are, right? So maybe, for example, me, I like to buy clothes. So I have tried to reduce the amount of new clothes I buy, and I buy reused clothes. I buy used clothes, recycled clothing, right? And so I think it's helpful for you to first think about where you impact the environment the most, and then think about strategies to then reduce that, whether you're a frequent flyer or whatever the case may be. Reusing. So this can be reusing items that you have in the house, repurposing them, like let's say a plastic jug and turning it into a planter, or reusing maybe a pasta jar that, the sauce that's in the glass jar, taking off the label and now using it as maybe a Tupperware type thing, or you can store items in there. You could, for example, reuse gift bags. I have a whole box of gift bags that people have, given me gifts in, and I just fold them up. And when I need to give a gift, I just go to my closet and I get a gift bag that has already been given to me. And so thinking about ways to reuse and repurpose the things you already have, and maybe things that you buy used. So let's say like this thing I bought at Savers. I don't know what it was meant to be, but normally I put fruit in here, right? So just trying to be creative with the things you have, and also using things that maybe have been already recycled. So recycling, obviously recycle right. We shouldn't be recycling things that the city actually cannot process. And you can find all the recycling information online at the city's website. But there's also the idea of recycling glass. You can collect your glass and take it to one of the citizen collection stations, and they'll pulverize it, and that can be reused for a number of purposes. You can recycle your aluminum, your plastic, and then rot. Rotting is composting, right? So don't throw away your food scraps. As you see in this photo, you can compost them. And doing these 4 R's all together, always thinking about, what can I refuse? How can I reduce my impact? What is it that I have that can be reused for a different purpose? What can you recycle instead of throw away? That might even be like technology and electronic type stuff. And obviously composting. Composting doesn't have to be hard. I'm actually going to give a talk about composting later, vermicomposting. But you can also, just literally take your scraps out. I have it on the side of my house, and I just have a pile, and I put dead leaves and my food, and I've been at this house for 3 years, and it's all just decomposing there. Okay, so now we can get into the funsy type eco swaps, and I didn't put all of them because there really is a lot of ways that you can be more eco-friendly in your daily life. So I kind of put the ones that for me are the most important and the most, I guess, easiest to do. So cleaning. The introduction of chemicals into the environment is a form of harmful pollution. And so a lot of our cleaning products have a lot of toxic substances, whether it's glass cleaner or degreaser or whatever it may be. So try to DIY your cleaning. For example, vinegar. Vinegar is an acid. It's wonderful for cleaning hard, grease stains, things like that. And you can look up online different DIY cleaning solutions and there's a lot. Maybe using cast iron soap and things of that nature. Also, if you do prefer to buy products, which I do sometimes for certain products, try to look for non-toxic products. Using refillable glass spray bottles, for example, and buying refill-sized packages. So, for example, dish soap. I don't buy the small bottles. I buy this bag that you're supposed to use to refill the bottles, and it uses less plastic, and it holds the capacity of, I think, 2.5 bottles, right? And I just have that on my counter, and I use that instead of buying the bottles. I put a picture here of a company that I like called Grove Collaborative, and I buy their cleaning concentrates, and it's, as you can see, it's this little glass bottle, and then you just put it into the water. You put it into the spray bottle, and then you fill it with water, and it creates a cleaning spray, right? Also, reusable towels and mop pads instead of throwing away, like using Swiffer Sweeper or something like that. Another trick that I found that's helpful is buying a small trash can. So the trash can I use for my house is I guess the typical size of a bathroom trash can. And I do have 2 bathroom trash cans for the bathrooms I have here, but they're smaller than my kitchen trash can. And we use, for example, plastic bags from the grocery store as trash bags, or also compostable bags. And so that helps you because it disincentivizes creating a large amount of trash, right? And if you find that you do create a lot of trash, you can do what's called a trash audit. And so a trash audit is basically just keeping track of what you're throwing away, right? And you could do it either before or after. So I feel like it'd be cleaner to keep track of what you're throwing away versus having to open your trash can and dump everything out and see what's in it. For example, I know that one of my biggest things is takeout food, because now I'm working from home, and sometimes if I have a dirty kitchen, I don't want to cook, right? But yeah, so then self-care items. So I included a brand. It's called Indra Cosmética. It's from Mexico. There's a small store in Juarez called Papaya Orgánica that they sell plastic-free self-care items. And also reusable cups and things like that. But so plastic-free self-care items, that includes all types of bar soaps. So my husband yesterday took a shower in what he called my shower. And I had all of my bar soaps. I have face bar soap, shampoo bar soap, conditioner bar soap. I have a bar soap that I use for shaving, and I have a body wash bar soap. And so he was like, I didn't know what to clean myself with. But they work wonderful. I mean, I think I have pretty nice hair, and I use bar soap, and I've been using it forever. And, on my face, I use bar soap. And you you're not using just a Dawn bar soap for your hair and everything. You select the bar soap for its purpose. But I think those are really easy, wonderful swaps, because you use shampoo, conditioner, face wash, body wash all the time. And so just switching that can reduce a big amount of plastic that you're creating through your self-care. Alternative toothpaste. So I use, it's called Bites. They're these little toothpaste tablets, but there are a lot of other brands. And if that's not for you, it's okay. You have to kind of understand what you're willing to give and take on. Sometimes you're thinking, I could never give up my wonderful shampoo that I love with all my heart that I've been using forever. So maybe that's not for you, this plastic-free self-care. So the idea is to pick and choose what works best for you, right? Bamboo toothbrushes, or even bamboo hairbrushes, cleaning, like the loofahs. I use this loofah that is with a natural material, reusable face rounds, sustainable menstrual products. So it could be, washable pads or menstrual cups or period underwear, anything of that nature. Trying to use clean ingredients. So if you're going to buy makeup, trying to look for makeup that uses clean ingredients and that's non-toxic for the environment and for yourself, right? Brands that use eco packaging, so stuff that's biodegradable or maybe even recycled plastic containers or some that have no containers. And then also just looking for brands that actually give back. And then used clothing. I love used clothing. I have a lot of great used clothing, and sometimes it makes me feel self-conscious because I feel like when you're an eco person, sometimes people have an idea of what you should look like. And so I feel like there's been times that I've been dressed up in my nice, like used outfit. And if somebody comments like, oh, you look really nice, I have that desire to be like, it's used, I promise. But used clothing is great. The fast fashion industry and the fashion industry in general is a huge polluter, and it leads to a lot of overconsumption. The amount of clothes thrown away and donated every year is just incredibly large. And so if you can either reduce what you buy, that might mean purchasing something that's high quality, but that you'll have for 10 years, or buying used stuff. And it doesn't mean that everything you buy has to be used. If you want to try and do that, that's wonderful, but at least trying to mix and match. Renewable energy, if it's possible, and explore installing solar on your home or your residence, or try enrolling in a community solar program, and also reducing your consumption. So I don't have any lights on right now in my house. I keep my windows open. At night, I use a small lamp or candles. I unplug things that are not in use. And so renewable energy, but also trying to just in general reduce your energy consumption. For example, the EPA states that if you want to reduce your energy consumption in the summertime, you should try to have your thermostat at 78. I can't have it at 78. Sometimes I do, but mostly 75 is the lowest I'll go. Some of you might be gasping for air at that thought. But like I said, you have to choose what you can do and what you can't do, right? Ebooks and using your library. So that's, reducing the amount of paper, reducing the amount of trees we have to cut down. And sometimes we buy books and then we just have them as decoration, which I get it. I have books as decoration, but sometimes, there's a book that you're probably not going to read again, and it's just something that you want to read for fun. You can just download that book and have it on your e-reader, or use the local library and check out books. Wax wrap. So this can be beeswax, or there's also a vegan type of wax. But basically, it's just like in this photo, it's a piece of cloth that has been coated with wax. And instead of using plastic wrap, you use this to cover your bowls, to wrap your sandwiches, things of that nature. And they last for a really long time, and they really are wonderful products. Compostable bags. So for my trash cans in my bathroom, I use these compostable bags, and also compostable doggy bags too. Rethinking paper. So paper products like toilet paper or napkins. If you can purchase recycled paper, toilet paper, napkins, or even bamboo toilet paper, and also reusing napkins, right? I have on my table some that are folded that we use, and we just wash them and reuse them, like at dinner time or lunchtime. And I included this brand here. It's called Reel, Reel, and they make bamboo bamboo toilet paper and bamboo napkins. And what I like about it is your purchase also helps to fund compostable toilets in countries that people don't have access to clean and hygienic toilets. And so, and it comes in totally plastic-free wrapping. Your yard, so using drought-resistant and desert-adaptive plants, xeriscaping your yard. This does not mean just putting rocks or concrete on your yard. It's a mix of plants and desert-adaptive trees, mulch, things of that nature to reduce the amount of water that you're using on your yard. And also, this is something we don't think about much, but light pollution. So if you're going to have any type of lighting around your house or outside, try to look for lighting that faces downward and has some sort of mechanism to cover the light being released into the environment. Light pollution actually can be harmful to animals, especially birds, and also it just reduces our ability to see the stars. And I think that kind of sucks. Travel. So if you fly a lot, try to fly one less time per year. That's really hard. I love to travel, but it's a reality that flying does release a lot of carbon dioxide. Also around town, when you plan your trips, try to plan the maximum amount of things in one trip, right? So like, let's say I have a whole bunch of glass to take to the recycling facility. I have some clothes I want to take to Savers. I have to go drop off a package at UPS, and I have to go pick up my daughter from school and get gas, maybe all of those things. I try and like plan my route so that I can do just all of those things in one time and in the most efficient way possible, right? And I would also say to be a conscious tourist when you are traveling abroad. A lot of times when we travel, us as a tourist, we place burdens on the local populations, and we overconsume resources at the expense of typically people who are local. And so just being an eco-conscious tourist and trying to reduce your impact while you're also enjoying a place is really important. I know this is really hard in El Paso, the idea of using alternative transportation, but if it's available to you and you can bike or walk or use public transportation to get to work or even just to get to a point of interest, try doing it, consider it. Or when you're traveling somewhere else, instead of renting a car, maybe you can see how you can use public transportation if it's available to you. And this is the picture of the Paso del Norte Trail, the Playa Drain Trail, which is by Azcárate, and that's a 3.4-mile trail that takes you from Azcárate Park all the way to Riverside. And eventually that trail will be 68 miles. It will go from Anthony all the way to Tornillo. And I'll be giving a presentation about that as well later on this week. So if you're interested, you can sign up. Purchasing carbon offsets, and I apologize, I didn't change the wording here. I just kind of kept my filler there. But basically, carbon offsets are donating money to organizations that are doing positive environmental activities, whether that be, like I said, compostable toilets or planting trees or anything of that nature. So let's say you fly somewhere, you can calculate the amount of carbon that released into the atmosphere, and then you go through a reliable carbon offset organization, and they'll determine what that amounts to in money and the offset activity that they do, and then you donate there, and then they do the offset activity for you. Reducing temptation, right? So reducing temptation is the idea of reducing your exposure to tempting things, right? So maybe it's opting out of direct marketing on social media so that you're not always bombarded with things that, that the algorithm knows you would want. If you know that when you start scrolling through, I don't know, online stores, it's going to tempt you to buy, try to stop. If you have applications to your favorite store on your phone and you find that really, really tempting, take that application off. When we reduce our temptation to items that maybe we don't need, it becomes easier to just feel satisfied. And I think that for me is one really big benefit of starting to step into a form of refusing, reducing, reusing, is that you start to separate yourself and your happiness from the material items that you have around you. Because at the end of the day, we cannot find happiness through constantly consuming, right? And so when we can reduce the temptation and when we can easily start to refuse and just live a more simple life, I guess that would be the best way to put it, is just living with as much necessities as you can versus the luxuries. There's a certain peace that you find. You don't always feel like you're looking for the next best thing. You feel like you're grateful. You cultivate a sense of abundance with what you have, and you cultivate a sense of gratitude. And I should have included that, right? Like, cultivate a sense of gratitude. But I think that it really does have mental health benefits. At least it has for me. And I can't speak for anybody else, of course. But for me, this whole process of stepping into a more eco-conscious way of life has definitely reduced those feelings of just always looking for the next new thing. This goes into the citizen versus consumer self. So as a citizen first, we should think about before we think about how we use our money, we should also be thinking about how we use our time and our talent. And so I think volunteering your time and dedicating yourself to something bigger than you is one of the best ways that you can give back and lead a more eco-conscious life. For example, volunteering with organizations like Green Hope, or organizations that are doing tree plantings, or, land conservation, whatever it is, whatever your environmental passion is, try to look for an organization that you could use that passion for. And volunteering doesn't just have to be doing like trash pickups or tree planting. It could also maybe be volunteering to do some, outreach to the community on a project. It could be volunteering your time on a city board. Like, for example, I volunteer my time with Frontera Land Alliance. I volunteer my time with Green Hope in some capacities, Eco El Paso, the Open Space Advisory Board for the City of El Paso, and some other volunteer nonprofits that I feel passionate about. And also get involved in boards and organizations that advocate for sustainability, whether that be, let's say, complete streets policy, or sustainable food policy, or reducing plastics, whatever where your passion lies, try to amplify that passion and get involved, because when you're working with other people to try and bring forth an outcome that's positive to the environment, it's going to do much more than you buying a bamboo toothbrush, for example. And donating your money. So when I say donating your money, you don't have to have a lot of money to donate money. You could donate $5 a month, or $5 every 2 months, or whatever it might be. Or you can say, I have X amount of dollars that I know I can feasibly donate. That might be $50, 200. I don't know. It all depends on your economic situation. And you can say, okay, well, I have $20 to donate. I want to donate $10 to this organization and $10 to that organization, and set it up as a monthly occurring donation. Again, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but if we have enough people donating money to an organization, then it could really make a huge difference. And so I wanted to turn it to you guys if you had any anything that I missed, or if you had any other type of eco swaps that you wanted to add. Feel free here to unmute yourself and give me your input. Candy, what do you think? What is an eco swap that I missed, or something that you would have added here?
I think you covered a lot more than I would have thought to, which is good, because now I'm going to go back and do some of that stuff that you mentioned. No, I mean, we've been going back and forth with the chat about stuff. Like Mandy's saying she uses biodegradable poop bags for her dog. I know with my composting, I got one of those little tabletop ones for the food scraps, and I found the compostable bags that I can just throw the bag in instead of, just taking the food out. On the internet, because I didn't really know what I was doing, I signed up for this thing called Mighty Nest. And I don't know have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'm going to screen share real quick just to show.
I've heard of it, and I wondered if anybody did it.
Yeah, can you see my screen or no?
No, because she's sharing.
No, I think let me stop real quick.
Well, while you're doing that,
there.
You have some great ideas, and there were things I had started a little document. And I was putting everything. One I put is like we do a CSA box from Desert Spoon, local food, as much local food, and grow something in your yard. Even if you're super busy, you can grow herbs. Anything you grow doesn't get shipped on a truck and use fuel. Grow more than what you can grow, more than what you can use, and share with a friend.
Cindy, can you tell them about the laundry strips you shared with me?
Oh yeah, so Well Earth Goods. That's where I started getting my shampoo, my bar shampoo, and I like your Viore better. But they do the laundry strips, and those are great. It's just a strip, and you put it in your laundry instead of the big plastic containers. And you used it too, right, Candy? Did you like that?
Well, what I thought was really interesting is I was just thinking about getting away from the big, liquid bottles and just going to the little pods. But then you showed me they look like dryer sheets, and then it uses less water. You don't need very little packaging. And I was like amazed at how many came in this tiny little, cardboard package. And so that's super cool.
So that's the other thing is when you buy gifts for people, I'm buying people bees wrap, or, I got the shampoo, or you just give, because I didn't know. I do a lot of these certain things, and it takes a lot of time. I wasn't working during the pandemic, so I was like, this is going to be a good time for me to try all these bar shampoos and find the best one. But sometimes all that takes a lot of time. And if we're all trying to find the best one, blog or support group or something to find what's the best. My next thing is compostable bags. I do have 2 compost piles in the back, and we're probably going to do solar next. We're all trying to do these things, but it's good to have the support of other people doing it.
This kind of, between Cindy and Sarah Elena, it just prompts me. I'm like, God, we should start like a group where we do swaps and we bring each other like certain things, and you leave with like 10 things and you just brought one, or we could have like a group on Facebook or something. Yeah. And so Diana's saying, me too. I use the plastic-free compostable ones. Papaya Organica, zero waste.
You were talking about that, Sarah, weren't you? Papaya.
Yeah, it's a girl from Juarez, and she sources, it's all Mexican products, and great price, and all natural, plastic free. So like my shampoo bar, my conditioner, all that stuff comes from some of the brands that she sources.
Nice.
So I like it because that's a local, you're supporting somebody local, but there's a lot of options, for zero waste. Thank goodness now. It's definitely, there's more options now than there ever was.
Yeah.
And you're right, Cindy, I didn't mention I had it on my notes, but I forgot to mention it. But yeah, when you're thinking about how you eat, like trying to shift towards just non-processed, local, even if you could do like regenerative type foods. And yeah.
So,
and then she was talking about, they've done the no lost food people.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Just I have a group of friends too that just kind of like, okay, I have too much stuff. Can I bring this to you? Just even if you have a neighborhood that's kind of will work with you, if people would start kind of not being afraid of that, I have
exactly
avocados right now. They're going.
So
I'm a volunteer with No Lost Food, actually. So I love their work. Yeah.
Sarah Elena, how do you have time to like do all this stuff? You're everywhere.
I don't know.
Gosh. So this is the website that kind of got me going. It's Mighty Nest. And so you can subscribe through a monthly subscription. And so they can either surprise you and send one eco-friendly product a month, or you can choose what you want that month and kind of schedule it. And so it's $10 a month. Sometimes they'll send you the bees wraps, cloths instead of paper towels, the dryer balls instead of dryer sheets, these bags. But that's where I started to get into, and by the way, we have a blog at greenhopeproject.org if you want to follow that, but we do review some of the products. So getting rid of the plastic toothpaste, I have the tablets like Sarah Elena mentioned she has, and so you just pop it in your mouth, chew on it, add some water, and then it soaps up. And so we review a lot of this stuff that we get.
Andy, you have to be careful of those. I asked my dentist about them, and they looked at the ingredients, and I think they don't have fluoride. Some of those you have to really be careful if they're not approved by your dentist. So
these are really good. They don't have they're fluoride free, bleach free, nasty microplastic free. Yeah. So these have been really good.
Just to know.
Yeah. And then, so they've been really cool. Mighty Nest is interesting. I don't know. You might want to poke around and see if you like it. And
are you doing it?
I am. Yeah. I've been doing it for about a year.
Oh, cool.
And then for the one that Cindy was talking about, the Viore.
Awesome.
So these are the hair bars we buy instead of having the plastic.
Oh, I've seen advertisements.
They lather real nicely and they smell unbelievable.
My God, like no going back. So
no going back. They're better than new shampoo.
So I actually have one here. I don't know if you can see. So it comes with the little bamboo container, so you can keep it in. Sorry, it's got the
little rice container
and then
rice cooker.
Yeah. And then when you get it, it comes packaged like this.
So beautiful.
And then you just kind of pull the origami apart, and then you have the bar.
Wow.
And it's kind of decorated very pretty. And I know you can't smell it, but it smells amazing. If you get a chance, check out Viore. I think I put the thing in the chat. It's Viore Beauty. And then you guys already saw this, but these are the toothpaste tabs. But Sarah Elena covered a lot more than I even knew about. So I don't know. Do you guys have any more suggestions?
I liked, you were talking about refuse. And I went to a restaurant yesterday, my first time in 15 months.
Right.
They were going to give me a plastic cup. And I said, do you have a single-use plastic, an option to not use single, do you have a store plastic one that you can wash, or do you have a paper cup, or do you have a whatever? And she said, no, usually I just will come in with my own, water container. But I think I like that idea of every time you go somewhere, you just ask, do you have something besides styrofoam? And if people are just bombarding, but I just have to remember to do that. Don't put the,
it's hard.
And I like a lot of restaurants, but I've started not going to the ones that won't give me something besides styrofoam. I hate coming home with styrofoam.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Restaurants that will put them in those paper ones. I think Savage and who's Jim Ward's, Eloise. There's a couple that are really good about getting some of those nice to-go containers that aren't styrofoam. But if we, as consumers, start demanding it, because we are consumers, they pay attention to our vote. And I don't know who went to Howard's presentation yesterday, but I was telling my husband this morning, that was so inspiring, because we can do what we can do, but we also need to, and you were talking about this too, is we've got to mobilize ourselves, because I cannot use a plastic water bottle, but the number one selling item at Costco is the plastic water bottles.
Exactly.
Do something else. And I know my dad used to say when I was growing up, he goes, if you want to make something change, make it peer pressure where it's not cool, where someone's walking around with a water bottle, where they make them, not to be mean to them, but positive advocacy, where they're going to feel a little convicted about having that. Like, this is not what we do now. It's how do we create, that positive advocacy of this is what we're doing now. We as a people are taking care of the planet. How do we do that?
And now
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say.
Go, Candy, you go.
Just real quick, it does matter when you make requests of people, because for the mixer for the summit, we were going through Super Chef Catering locally. And when we did request that the food we give to the people at the mixer not be in plastic containers, she has since considered buying bamboo, and she's like, okay, I just didn't know my clients were interested in that. I can start purchasing that.
Exactly.
So grateful that she would adjust for us, but we had to step up and ask.
Right. If you start
Like, I remember one time I hosted a presentation at my university about it was like a philosophy type presentation with professors and stuff, and I had it paid for with the president's office. But when I was organizing it, I asked the catering company that was on campus, could you please not give disposable stuff? Can we just use real plates and cups? And they're like, yeah, sure. But all the other events that I would always go to, everything was on disposable. And I thought, I guess, did people just never ask or what, And so sometimes just that simple asking a question, and you never know if it's going to be yes or no. And I think one thing to remember too is that there's always going to be what you call green premium on stuff that is more eco-friendly, quote unquote. So, we can say that let's have people buy bulk or whatever it may be, but those items might be more expensive up front. And so not everybody can afford these items, and not every company can afford to switch to more, environmentally friendly packaging or whatever it may be. And I think that's why it's so important to then also have the advocacy. And also, for example, investing in research and development into how we can create more affordable options for those and reduce what you call the green premium. And that's why I wanted to say, here I am, I live in a single family home, I have a car, I get packages delivered to me, and there's people who don't have any of that. And so who am I to talk about eco-friendly swap? But it's just, we live in the culture we live in. I live in the society I live in. These are my options to reduce my impact. But I don't want anybody to feel like they can't be part of cultivating a more eco-conscious way of life if they can't afford these sorts of products. Because at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. It's not about buying ourselves out of environmental destruction. It's about coming into our citizen selves and working together to really change, like I said, the system that perpetuates environmental destruction,
Yeah.
Oh, I have one more thought. I just got a thought.
Go ahead.
Like, if you're in charge of a conference, instead of buying tons and tons of water bottles, give a really cool door prize for the person that brings the best, water container, and really incentivize bringing your own. Bring your own. Just incentivize bringing your own. Or we're gonna if you don't bring your own, we'll sell you a water bottle for $10. Make that the expensive thing. We'll have some water, but they'll be $10. So that, oh boy, it's better. It's going to be cheaper for me to bring this from home. If make the more expensive thing.
Oh yeah, that's a wonder. When you're organizing events or even at your house, like sometimes I set up like compost and recycle and trash. Like if I have a party at my house and people can separate their items accordingly. Yeah. There's so much,
There's
that
so
we
much.
can do.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I just wanted to close with this, that like, I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a family member of mine that we think very differently on everything. Basically, I love her, but we think very differently. And we were talking about climate change, and I was asking her like, well, do you think climate change is happening? And for her, it was like, yeah, well, climate change is happening. I don't know how much people really are like causing it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be dead when the effects are felt. And that, when you leave conversations, after having a conversation with somebody that thinks extremely differently than you are, sometimes you walk away and you have a lot of food for thought. And you think about things that you should have said during your conversation, and you're like, for next time, I'll remember this. But what I wish I had told her and tried to convey was that the effects are being felt now, right? Of environmental destruction and climate change. It's happening now. We see all of California in a drought. We see wildfires. We see sea rise. A lot of things are happening now. And so I don't think that we should fall into this nihilistic thought of just like, well, I'm going to be dead, so it doesn't matter, because we're feeling the impacts now. And we all have a part to play, however big or small that part is. And yeah, so I hope everybody feels empowered through this, and just remember that it's not what you can buy, but it's much more than just buying our way out of this. But there are all those fun eco swaps that you do feel good using those products, and that you're making a change. But you can't just buy eco-friendly products and think everything's going to be fine. It has to be twofold, right? You have to exercise your citizen self and your consumer self, and work towards bringing about a system that supports sustainability. And that's it. That's my presentation.
I'm really glad that you hit on that part of it, because not even I was thinking that way, but thank you for addressing that. And thank you for your time. Now I want to go shop at Savers. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah, Elena, and thank you everybody who attended today and who is tuning in right now. We'll create a Facebook, and maybe we can all hang out and participate in swaps, and come election time, see how we can unite to address that portion of this lesson. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.